Morning. We're going to talk some baseball, and this is maybe my favorite story. This and the Jose Canseco home run story. Once again, I am covering the Bend Phillies for the Bend Bulletin newspaper, and it's a hot evening in June or July, and I am sitting at the press table at Vince Guinness Stadium in Bend. To understand the layout, there is a press box behind me, a small um, little building with two tiny compartments, one for the scoreboard operator, the other one for the radio crew that broadcast Bend Phillies games. The press table was directly in front of the press box, and this is where I was sitting. I usually sat on the far right side, just below the radio announcer's spot. And on this night, over on the far left hand side, is a man named Bill Harper. Anyone who has had anything to do with Pacific Northwest baseball for a long time has to know the name Bill Harper. He was a long-time high school coach, and he was the only scout for the Philadelphia Phillies to cover the Pacific Northwest area. Earlier in the game, Bill was down much lower in the crowd. He had his jugs gun, which measured the speed of pitches, etc. And he was, writing down all kinds of notes about players for the Bend Phillies and also for the visitors. I cannot remember who the Phillies were playing on this particular game because it's irrelevant to the story. Well, we get Bill finishes up his work, and he gets up to the far side of the press table to where he can fan out all of his sheets and start writing down information for reports, which will go to the Phillies minor league office, in which they dissect the abilities of players on both teams. Well, Bill's sitting there and he's working hard, and I noticed that Jack Kane, the owner of the Phillies, comes up the aisle. There were two aisles, one just off to my right and the other one just off to Bill Harper's left. And Jack comes up that far one, and he leans in and says something to Bill Harper. And Bill Harper sits there and looks a little bit stunned. And Jack leaves, goes back downstairs, and Bill sits there, and he just kind of holds up his pen for a second and then lets it drop onto his pad of paper. And he gets up, he leaves his jugs gun, all of his information, his satchel that he brought everything in, and walks down the stairs and walks around. As far as I can see him, as he walks around the side of the seating area, and there's a wall there, so you can't see exactly where he's going. So obviously something is troubling Bill Harper. So later I see Jack, who is around, and he's a great owner, and he comes around and talks to fans and making sure that they're having a good time at the ballpark. Well, I see him and I wave him on up, and I go, Jack, I saw you talking to Bill. We were used to seeing Bill every so often because he did his scouting work. And I said, what did you say to Bill? And he says, we just got a report from the Phillies front office that the Phillies traded with the Chicago Cubs and received shortstop Ivan DeJesus. And in return, they shipped the Phillies' existing starting shortstop Larry Boa and a young prospect named Ryne Sandberg to the Cubs. And Jack says, Sandberg was Bill's signing, and he believed that Ryne Sandberg was the single greatest player that he had ever signed. And, a signing to a scout can mean a lot of money. It can mean a lot of money in bonuses if that player goes on to the major leagues, and there can be additional bonuses if that player becomes an all-star. And it means a lot of money if that player becomes a major leaguer and an all-star in a Phillies uniform. Well, he knew that Ryne Sandberg was that kind of player. The Phillies looked at it that they had a tremendous overload of talent in the middle infield. They had Boa, and they were getting Ivan DeJesus, who was a moderately accomplished shortstop with a major league pedigree. They also had Manny Trio as a second baseman. They had tried Sandberg at shortstop. They didn't think he was a good fit there. They didn't consider him as a top prospect at second base. They figured he might work out better as a third baseman, but the Phillies already had a man named Mike Schmidt there, who was a marvelous offensive and defensive player. So in the Phillies' eyes, Ryne Sandberg was expendable. Well, anyone who follows baseball trades knows that that will rank among the worst trades ever in the history of Major League Baseball. Boa, was an adequate second baseman for a short time for the Cubs, and Ryne Sandberg was converted to be a second baseman. He was a every year All-Star, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest second basemen ever to play the game. And Bill Harper watched his prize signee be shipped off as a secondary item in a trade. Ivan DeJesus was out of the game, I believe, after playing 2 years with the Phillies. Sandberg played, I should have looked this up, but probably played 15, 16 years in the majors and was an astounding talent. So that's the way of baseball. I mean, Bill Harper worked the Pacific Northwest and, went to so many American Legion baseball games, high school games, junior college games, and college games to scout out talent for one team, the Philadelphia Phillies. And he just, in that Sandberg trade, was let down by the Phillies big time. So I did see a note that Bill died here a year or two ago. He gave his all for the Phillies. He gave his all for the players he signed. A very good man. I talked to him on occasion, and he was exceptionally respected within the Phillies organization and within Oregon and Pacific Northwest baseball. The man has almost an iconic status among Pacific Northwest baseball. So there you go. There's just another one of those little baseball vignettes. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about a little personal note, a family outing, so to say, that involves the Bend Phillies and me covering a Sunday afternoon game. And I'll tell you all that there. It's got a bit of humor to it. And looking forward to telling you that story. Here's to Bill Harper and Ryne Sandberg and Juan Samuel and Jack Kane and the various managers the Phillies and other teams that I dealt with. You made my life very interesting, and some of those stories do end up in my one summer season, A Young Man's Brutal Baptism into Love and Baseball. Available on Smashwords, $3.99. It's a bargain. It's a good story. It's a good little story, and I'm very proud to put that out for people to read. So we'll talk tomorrow. Until then, you writers out there who are watching this, write the hell out of it. For everyone else, have a good day. Buy a good book. One Summer Season is one of them. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Bye bye.